You know, everybody knows the pentatonic scale. That's the problem. Everybody knows the pentatonic scale. And while it's great as a framework and for getting the sound and feel of the style, it's still only 5 notes. There's 7 more that we can use, and today we're going to add 2 of them. Stay tuned and I'll show you how. Hi, I'm Dr. George at Jumpstart Jazz Guitar, helping you make better music. Now, we're going to be talking about going beyond the pentatonic scale, but first you need to know the patterns, and not just the standard boxes. We're talking about 2 patterns that combine to form a pentatonic framework for the entire neck. They're included in my gift to you, the Essential Scale Patterns for the Jazz Guitarist. It's a free download, so just click the link below to get your copy. Now, you probably know that I'm a big advocate of using the pentatonic scale as a basis for your jazz solos. But it's easy to get stuck in it. It's always going to sound pretty good, so there's not a lot of incentive to go beyond it. But the reason it sounds good is because we've removed the notes that create the tension. And so the pentatonic scale is really just plain vanilla. Once you've got it down, it's time to spice it up a bit. Okay, so we're going to start simple. We're just going to use the 5 notes of a pentatonic scale. We'll use a B-flat scale, and then we'll also use an E-flat scale. Okay? Now, we're going to be adding 2 of the blue notes to this today. And the first one we'll add is the flat 3. So on the B-flat scale, we'll find it here first, and we'll also find it here. Now I'm reversing the order of those last 2 notes because that flat 3 needs to resolve. Okay? It either needs to resolve up or it needs to resolve down because it's actually sitting between 2 notes in the scale. Now on the E-flat pattern, we only have 1 blue note that we can add, and the flat 3 is right there. Now, if we were thinking in minor, this would be called the blues scale. But in major, it makes it bluesy too, but it's not the blues scale. So next, we're going to add the flat 7. On the B-flat scale, it's going to be found here. So, okay. And then on the E-flat scale, we'll find it on both ends. Okay. And you probably noticed that these are the same as the flat 3 on the B-flat scale. Now, the flat 7 requires a little bit of care. If you're going to use this as a blue note, it's going to resolve down to the 6. But it can also be a chord tone, especially if you're playing it in a blues. So let's see how this is going to work on a common chord progression. 1, 6, 2, 5. First 4 bars of rhythm changes. Now, on the B-flat chord, could be a major 7 or a 6. Okay? It's basically the pentatonic with a little bit of spice added to it. Now when we go to the 6th chord, well, that chord doesn't really, the blue notes don't really work terribly well on that. The pentatonic works just fine, but if we do use the blue notes, what we're implying really is a G7 flat 9 chord, which makes it a little bit more interesting. Now when we go to the 2 chord, now the B-flat pentatonic, if we just play the pentatonic it works. Again, the blue notes aren't so great there. We might actually want to switch to the E-flat. And the same for the 5 chord. So in the next 4 bars, these notes are going to help us make the changes. We start on a B-flat chord, so we're on the B-flat pentatonic there. And then it goes to a 5, 7, a 4, and that A-flat is the 7th. Okay, so we just play that A-flat, and we've made that change. And then we go to the E-flat chord. Now, we can do that, and of course we can use that as a blue note if we want, but the next chord an E diminished chord. The seventh of the E diminished is D flat. And so, and then we go back to 1. Okay? So just adding those notes makes it so that we're making the changes, and we've got the whole A section of the rhythm changes covered. Now, of course, we can use these patterns to play over the blues. And so, so we're just kind of we're changing the patterns. We're using the first pattern. Then we use the second pattern. And then back to 1. Now, there's not much change between these. Remember, we're going... So they're very, very similar and really easy to make them switch back and forth between them two. And then when we go up to the 5 chord, we can do that same pattern. And back. And we're back to 1. So on a jazz blues, we usually end the last 4 bars with a 2 chord, a 5 chord, a 1 chord, and then some sort of turnaround, often 1-6-2-5. Okay? So I'm going to let you in on another little secret. On 2-5 progressions, a lot of times the players will ignore 1 chord or the other. If you're Joe Pass, you're probably going to play the 5-7 chord. And if you're Pat Martino, you might be playing the 2 chord. So if you wanted to stay on the 2 chord, that E flat pentatonic is going to work just fine. And if you wanted to stay on the 5-7 chord, what you might want to try is the minor pentatonic. So we could be playing all 3 scales on a blues. Playing the B flat pentatonic, pentatonic plus, I guess we should call it, and then playing the... Now on the 2, if you want to play the 2 chord, and when we play that 5-7 chord, kind of implying the 5-7 sharp 9, which is kind of a cool note too. So there you have it. We've expanded our pentatonic pattern to 7 notes, but it's not the major scale and it's not the blues scale. And we've seen how we can use it to make the changes over the A section of rhythm changes, and how easily we can start making the changes of the blues too. We did it on just 3 strings. You know, you can do the same thing on the other halves of the pattern, and it'll get even better. So here's your next steps. You know, rhythm changes in the blues are the basis for a lot of jazz, so you want to make sure that you can handle it. So work this on the A section of the rhythm changes, work it on the blues. And if you can handle them, you can handle almost any tune, because there's a lot of tunes that are very similar in structure to that A section of rhythm changes. And you can try this expanded pattern out on them too. And note, remember, this is the major pentatonic only, so you should be looking at tunes that are in major. So I hope you're starting to see how the pentatonic framework can work for you. And there's still lots more we can add to it. Please leave a comment down below or ask some questions. And don't forget to grab the Essential Scales Guide. See you next time.